The ancient Romans had two words, the same word, that meant two different things in their language. The word was liber, L-I-B-E-R. Liber meant free, as in not a slave. A free being would be described as liber, free. It's the basis of the English word liberty, liberty, freedom. They had the same word, also meant a different concept, book. They associated the Latin word for book also meant free in their language. Liber is the basis for the word library, liberary, where you can go to become free if you read the right books. There's two spiritual currencies, time and attention. We can readily see this, right? Time is money, people say. It's currency. What am I going to spend my time on? What am I going to pay attention to? Pay attention. You pay for something, you get something in return when you pay for something. That's what attention will get you here. It will get you something in return. You pay attention, you're going to come out of here with a lot of understanding. This analogy can be seen very readily in the saying, spending time and paying attention. Whatever information or endeavors we put our time and attention toward, we end up getting something in return for that investment of these currencies. This is what real money is, folks. Real money. Money is not a medium of exchange. People think of it as a medium of exchange, and it's not. It's incorrect. Money is the limiter of energy in the system. People think of money as currency. Even the name is a mind control technique because it's supposed to be about, it's the current in the energy system. It's the resistance in the system. It's the resistance to change in the system. The ability to see, to unoccult something and see it for what it really is. That's what comes from truly putting time and attention onto the right things. This return could come in the form of knowledge. It could come in the form of understanding. It could come in the form of skills, expertise, and empowerment. But only if we invest these two spiritual currencies wisely. That's why most people don't have any money. They got nothing to pay for it with. See, you pay attention and you get money. You spend time and you get money. We should seek to improve our quality of attention by placing it upon information that is capable of improving both ourselves and the human condition as a whole. Such an effort would also constitute a valuable investment of our time. We should ask ourselves, what am I spending my time on? What am I spending my time doing? And what am I paying attention to? That's where you will find whether you're investing in real value, something that is truly valuable. Most of the time, we're spending our time on nonsense and trivialities and, divisive things and TV and sports and all other kinds of entertainment and distraction. Well, you're going to have a return on that investment, and that return is going to be low. Most importantly, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of quality am I getting in return for my investments of time and attention? Natural law has been called many different things in different traditions throughout the world at different times in history. It's been called the law of cause and effect. And there's a scientific connotation to this concept of cause and effect too. Even scientists will say an effect invariably follows a cause. And they'll also say things like, for every action, there exists an equal and opposing reaction. So there's a consequence when an action is taken. In the New Age circles, you've heard it referred to as the law or laws of attraction. The energy that we emit is the energy that we attract. This is true. What we're putting out into the universe is what we're getting in return from the universe and what we're creating in our reality. Energy flows where attention goes. As you think, feel, and act, so you shall be. It's been called karma. It's been called moral law. What we sow, we reap. The seeds that you scatter, that's what's going to grow, and that's the fruit that you're going to harvest. And finally, the golden rule, it's been called. And it's been stated in the affirmative as, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. I think it would have been much less ambiguous, the golden rule, if it was said like this. Do not do to others as you would prefer not to have done unto you. How natural law actually works in our lives. What are its expressions? How can we come to understand how this operates? There are ways of knowing. They're through these expressions of natural law. What these expressions are the recognizable workings in our life. And they take place through 5 basic expressions. Each of the 5 expressions of natural law have a positive aspect and a negative aspect. So that gives us a total of 10 overall natural law expressions. And we're going to build a chart regarding these expressions. So here's the expression, and then there's a positive aspect to the expression, and there's a negative aspect to the expression. The first expression of natural law is known as the first principle of natural law, the generative polarity. Or in other words, this is the force or energy that we are using at the base level to start the process of creation, or you could say of co-creation. You could look at the first expression of natural law, which is the generative polarity, as the force that we use to set all of the other events which are to come, which are to manifest in our lives, into motion. Or in other words, the force that we use to generate or create the quality of our experience. That's the generative polarity. The positive expression of the generative polarity is love. This is not what many people think of as love. It's not familial love. It's not relationship love. I call love consciousness. Love is the force which helps us to expand consciousness and become open to truth if we are in it. If we are in that vibratory energy, we become open to truth. So here's what it looks like visually. Love is inside each individual if it's present. It doesn't depend on any other person. You can express love with another person, and there's no problem with that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a great thing if it's present in your life. The capital L, capital O, capital V, capital E definition of love that I'm giving here is not that. It is this force that opens up our consciousness. It's the flowering expression of consciousness. The positive aspect of the generative polarity, the first expression of natural law, is love. In regard to natural law, love should be seen as the expansive force for consciousness. It is the force which helps us to become open to truth and expand our awareness. That's the positive expression of the creative polarity. The negative expression of the creative polarity is the exact opposite of love. So people will automatically think, well, that's hate. And it is not. Because the thing that puts consciousness in a box and prevents it from growing and keeps it where it's at is what? Fear. Fear is the basis for unconsciousness. You cannot be unconscious of anything in particular unless you fear it. That's what shuts consciousness down. I don't want to look at that. That's too horrible for me to contemplate. That can't be true. I don't want that to be true. That's all fear. The negative aspect of the generative polarity is fear. Fear is the contractive force for consciousness. Fear is the force which influences us to become closed to the truth, and it is the force which ultimately shuts down our awareness. That's why so many people are unconscious, because they are fearful. They are fearful of the responsibility that comes with knowledge, and most of all, they are fearful of having to act based upon knowledge, because that requires courage. The second natural law expression is the initiating expression. The initiating expression is the first stage of tangible and recognizable results which we produce in our lives after we have, quote unquote, set the ball rolling, set the dynamic in motion by choosing between the generative polarities of either love or fear. We choose love and something starts to happen. We become open to truth. Well, love is the expansive force for consciousness that opens our minds to the truth and awareness. So what do we gain as a result of accepting or existing in the vibratory energy called love? We gain knowledge, which is the acceptance of truth. Since love opens us up to truth, knowledge is its reception. It is the receiving of truth. Know the self and you will know the universe. In other words, know the microcosm and you will know the macrocosm. The positive aspect of this initiating expression is knowledge or the acceptance of truth. Knowledge positively influences the quality of our lives because it positively influences our decision-making processes that lead to understanding in every area of our lives. You want to know how something works and ultimately create something good? You have to have knowledge. You want to know how a car works? Keep it running in good order, you have to have knowledge. You want to know how a computer works? Keep it running in good order, you have to have knowledge. Learning is the key, it's the answer. Of course, there's a negative initiating expression if we are existing in the vibratory dynamic of fear. That would be the opposite of knowledge, ignorance. Ignorance is the refusal of truth. It is the refusal to gain knowledge. The negative aspect of the initiating expression of natural law is ignorance, or the refusal of truth. Ignorance negatively influences the quality of our lives because it negatively influences these decision-making processes that lead to understanding in every area of our lives. If you're ignorant about how anything works, you can't create the desired condition. It's important to remember, again, that ignorance should be distinguished from nescience, which means not knowing because necessary information is not present or was unattainable. Ignorance, on the other hand, means not knowing even though necessary information is present because that information has been willfully refused or disregarded. The internal expression is what happens inside of us, very simply. We've started creating with a polarity. Something has happened in the world, either acceptance of truth or refusal of truth. Now something's going to take place inside of us. This is the foundation that lies underneath the trivium. What happened after knowledge, or lack thereof? We went up to understanding. So that's what this level is. Understanding happens internally, right? It's an internal process. The positive aspect of the internal expression is when we come to understand through developing the knowledge and the acceptance of truth that we are sovereign. Sovereignty is the expression, the internal positive expression of natural law. Internal monarchy. Now, monarchy means one ruler. Mon means one, is a prefix for one, and archon in Greek means ruler or master. The positive aspect of the internal expression is sovereignty, or what I call internal monarchy, meaning one ruler within. Internal monarchy, one ruler within. As a state of consciousness, sovereignty means that one has unified the three aspects of their consciousness, such that there is no internal contradiction between one's thoughts, emotions, and actions. We become a being that as we think, so we feel, so we speak and act. Sovereign is derived from the Latin adverb super. Super means above. It means above or beyond. That's what it means. A superman is one who's beyond an ordinary man. The Latin noun regnum comprises the second part of the etymological root of this word. Regnum, it comes from rex. Rex regis in Latin, or regis. It means king. So regnum was the king's rulership. Rulership or externally imposed control. Sovereign means not a subject to another being, like a king, like one who considers himself a king. And it means not a slave to someone who considers themselves your master. Sovereign is a monarch, which means a single ruler who rules only the kingdom of self. Sovereignty is a state in which one controls one's own thoughts, emotions, and actions, and by bringing them into unity or non-contradiction or non-duality, attains mastery over one's own consciousness. Sovereignty could be considered the equivalent of true self-control, true self-mastery, true self-love, or true self-ownership. It's all of these things. And ultimately it means not a slave. That's what has to be remembered above all else. The negative internal expression for natural law, which is confusion. Now, confusion results when we are in ignorance. Confusion only happens in a lack of understanding. When we have not taken in knowledge, because we are afraid, we are in fear, ignorance results, and then confusion happens internally. Inside of us, there's anarchy, which means the absence of ruler. This negative aspect of the internal expression of natural law is confusion, or what I call internal anarchy, meaning no ruler within. Confusion is the state of mind in which the being is ruled by fear and ignorance. Confusion could be seen as internal opposition within one's own consciousness. In other words, being torn apart from within in such a way that one's own thoughts, emotions, and actions are in perpetual contradiction with each other. The fourth expression of natural law is what happens externally in the macrocosm in society. If there's love present and knowledge has been taken in and it's been understood and we understand that we're sovereign and we're expressing self-ownership and self-mastery, what state manifests in society? Freedom. Freedom can only manifest when those preceding conditions are in place. It cannot magically manifest by any other means. If we say we want to be free, this is the path we have to take. Consciousness, acceptance of truth, and an understanding of our own sovereignty through self-mastery. The positive aspect of the external expression is freedom, or what I call external anarchy, meaning externally there are no rulers. There is no condition of masters and slaves. True freedom for all should be seen as the goal of spiritual development. Such a state can only manifest as a result of human society's adherence to natural law. The only way it is possible for it to manifest is if we understand and adhere to natural law. Now, there's a negative external expression, control. Control is what I call external monarchy. The fifth and final expression for natural law, how it operates in our lives, is what I call the manifestation, or the result that we create. The positive manifestation is order. All the things we say we want, manifested goodness. This would be, we get what we say we want to get. And there's requirements for that, and here they are. You got to be in this vibratory energy of consciousness. You have to accept the truth and develop knowledge. You have to have an understanding that you're a sovereign being, and you have to work toward the manifestation of true freedom. Then you'll have all the things you say you want, manifested goodness and order in your life. And that's the only path to it. The positive manifestation, manifested goodness. It represents everything we say we want, and it only results when there is balance or justice. Justice comes about through adherence to natural law. Justice can only be present when truth has been accepted in our lives and our behavior has been brought into harmony with natural law. Cannot manifest any other way. That's the positive manifestation. The negative manifestation is the opposite of order, chaos. Chaos is manifested evil. The negative manifestation, chaos or manifested evil, is the exact opposite of what we say we want. Chaos results when there is imbalance and injustice, which results whenever there is ignorance of truth and behavior which is in direct opposition to natural law. So that's our chart, and one last thing I want to say about it is that the manifestations or the expressions of natural law, they're unilateral. They don't cross into each other. There's no such thing as, well, I've accepted the truth and I've developed knowledge, so now I'm in a state of confusion. It doesn't work like that. You can't go from ignorance to sovereignty, to the understanding that you're sovereign. You cannot cross the area of these charts. Please keep this in mind. These expressions are unilateral. They cannot be skipped either. They must proceed in order and in the same column of expression. So you can only get to order through freedom, which comes about through the understanding that we are sovereign, which comes about through taking in knowledge of truth, and which comes about through staying in a vibratory energy of love or higher consciousness, the openness to truth. That's it. The knowledge of the self, the knowledge of the human psyche and how the psyche operates, its components, its aspects, its motivations, its desires, etc. These processes take place in the human mind and are chosen by each individual based upon the available information that they have taken in. Wisdom is action. It's different than knowledge. It's different than understanding. Knowledge is something that exists inherently, and you can take it in objectively. Understanding is an internal process that goes on within the self, based upon the knowledge that you've taken in and processed. And then wisdom is action. It's what you do in the world with the knowledge that you have accrued and understood. The lack of knowledge is ignorance. The lack of understanding is confusion. And the lack of wisdom is folly. One more level above that is what we get based upon what we've done. What is manifested? What is generated? What do we experience? The manifested reality. It's the quality of the conditions that we experience. That's the real law of attraction, folks. This is how the universe actually works inherently. And it describes not only how it works, but our relationship to that process. I'm not powerless. I am full of power.